The Huawei Nova 3i and Honor Play are two very similar devices, that much we know. It also extends to the camera setups, and thus it becomes important to find out which is better since they're even priced at similar price points. This is Sandeep from RevAtlas. Let's compare the two in detail. The camera setup on both these phones are quite similar. There's not a whole lot different at the back since the hardware is practically the same. Both the phones have 16 megapixel f2.2 camera at the back and an accompanying 2 megapixel depth sensor. But the Play is powered by a superior Kirin 970 chipset compared to Kirin 710 on the Nova 3i. This should create some differences in terms of image quality as well as the features on both these phones. As expected, the Honor Play images do carry much higher levels of detail and sharpness compared to a Nova 3i despite similar camera setups. There's also a difference in terms of white balance as the colors tend to be warmer on the Play while it's cooler on the Nova 3i. There also seems to be some aggressive post-processing on certain instances on the Nova 3i which leads to blotched details and artifacts. Both the phones have AI features that adjust the processing of the image based on the automatic scene detection. However, as we noted in the Honor Play camera review, it tends to be a bit over the top when it comes to greenery, and if you aren't a fan of the boosted colors, then you'll dislike the Nova 3i even more since it saturates the colors even further than the Play. Luckily, the AI effects are something you can disable after the fact even in case you don't like it. AI also auto-enables the portrait mode when it sees fit, so we recommend leaving it on by default. The dynamic range on both these phones are quite similar, and the HDR mode doesn't do a whole lot in terms of improving the dynamic range since it's already pretty good. In terms of low light performance, both the phones are really similar to each other, but the Play has an edge here in terms of noise reduction thanks to a more powerful image processing. The HDR mode in particular on the Play also gives it a big advantage in taking a photo that's more well exposed without adding much noise to the frame either. The portrait mode on the Play is again better in terms of edge detection as well as sharpness on the portion in focus. The difference isn't too tangible when glancing at the photos, but when you zoom in, the difference is quite evident. The other thing you'll notice instantly is the difference in contrast. Like the more saturated colors, the Nova 3i also tends to add extra contrast to a scene compared to the flatter looking photos on the Honor Play. Also, when it comes to the Honor and Huawei devices, it's better to use the aperture mode than the portrait mode as it allows better control of the photos. You can adjust the blur levels and even the point of focus after the image has been captured. The front-facing camera on the Play is a 16 megapixel f2 unit, but the Nova 3i has a 24 megapixel f2 sensor along with a secondary 2 megapixel depth sensor. Don't let the megapixels fool you. The 16 megapixel sensor on the Play creates better looking and sharper images with better detailing than the Nova 3i. Even in terms of portrait mode, the Play manages to capture better photos even without the depth sensor. The edge detection is better and the difference is clearly visible. The AI effects are available for the front camera on the Nova, while there is no HDR or AI option on the front-facing camera of the Play. There's an HDR option on the front camera as well on the Nova called the HDR Pro, but it really doesn't do much. In terms of videos, the Play has a clear lead. Not just because it supports 4K resolution, but because it supports 1080p videos with EIS in both 16:9 and 18:7:9 aspect ratios. The resulting footage is a whole lot stable on the Pro as a result and looks more refined compared to a Nova 3i which is quite jittery. Having a gimbal will make it better and more usable, but without a stabilizer it looks quite bad. Considering how the Kirin 710 is a pretty powerful chipset, we would have hoped for a EIS at least in 1080p mode, but hopefully they'll roll it out with an update soon. The same goes for the front-facing camera. The Play is one of the few that have EIS on the front-facing camera for videos, and it looks really good and refined. So this is the front-facing camera on the Honor Play capturing 1080p video at 30 fps, and there's EIS in this which actually makes the videos quite stable compared to any of the videos that you see without stabilization enabled. But other than that, let me know how you find the overall dynamic range, the sharpness, the detailing, etc. in this video compared to the Nova 3i. So this again is 1080p 30 fps video on the Nova 3i. But what's different is that I've enabled the HDR Pro mode. So let me know if you see any difference in terms of the dynamic range itself. So HDR mode is supposed to improve the dynamic range. You should be able to see more from the highlights and more from the shadows as well, and create an overall impressive looking image or video. So let me know if this actually creates any difference in terms of the dynamic range compared to the mode with the HDR Pro turned on. One feature that's missing on the Play that the Nova 3i has is the 3D Qmoji, although for most people I wouldn't think that this would be a deal breaker. We already saw that the Honor Play is a much better device compared to a Nova 3i in almost every aspect, apart from maybe the design itself. Now coming to the camera, the Play again has a lead both in terms of photos as well as videos. So unless you're looking to get a smartphone that just looks good, it's probably best to get the Honor Play since it provides the best of both worlds in terms of camera, performance, and all the other aspects that you would get in a smartphone. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.